More of the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right. Welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. NBA Draft later tonight, but also in the sports world, there's another draft this week, and that's the NHL Draft on Friday in Chicago. You had the expansion draft last night with the award ceremony as the Golden Knights now have their team formed, and they'll continue to improve on that. Now let's go out to the hotline and welcome in Russ Cohen, who is a Sirius XM analyst for NHL Network Radio. Devils picking number 1, Flyers number 2. Islanders make a big trade today, and we'll see also what is cooking with the New York Rangers. Russ, appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for the time, and how are you?
Good, Zach. You?
I'm doing great. So you're on a boat right now? What type of draft coverage is on a boat right now?
Right now, I'm on a boat. It's on, Shoreline Drive and Shoreline Boat Sightseeing. I'm looking at a sign for Nolan Patrick. He's eventually going to be here. Heishier, Velarde, they're all going to be here.
All right,
a bunch of them, not all of them.
That sounds great. So Nolan Patrick and Nico Heishier, that's the big debate. Devils 1, Flyers 2. Last time you were on with us, you thought Patrick would go number 1. Has that changed, or do you think that's still how it's going to stay course here?
I still think it's going to stay the course. I think Shiro is putting out the feelers and giving his best. See, I don't know who I'm going to take to see what kind of offers he can get, but at the end of the day, I think that's who they're taking.
All right, so break him down for me. Break down Nolan Patrick. What player are the Devils getting? And then also with Nico Heishier, what type of player are the Flyers getting?
So with Patrick, they're getting a future first-line center. He plays a heavy game. He'll probably weigh around 220 when he's done. He's around 200 now. He's 6'3", so he's got good size. He has good speed. He does have some finesse in his game, but he plays a heavy game. And that's what we like now in the NHL. If you play a heavy game, then you get more opportunities because you can go to the net. But he's also fully capable of setting up guys. He could be that guy that scores even on a one-timer. But he's got a lot of different facets. He's also very tenacious on defense. So he's not strictly a scorer, and that's why I think he goes number 1, because he's just got too many tools that way.
Who's the player comparison for both these players?
I mean, I never give out player comparisons, to be honest. It's not because I just always think Nolan Patrick's the first Nolan Patrick. But he'll be a first-line center. That's the best thing I'll say about it.
What do you expect out of both these players, Patrick and Heishier, right away in their first season?
I think Patrick, they'll wait and see. Maybe they'll give him a couple preseason games, and then they'll see if he has to go back or not. It wouldn't shock me if he goes back because, he did miss 35 games last year. He is recovering from a core injury. So I would kind of expect him to go back, to be honest. Heishier is a little different in the sense that he can't go to the AHL because he has this sort of weird Swiss deal where normally a Euro could go to the AHL, but he can't. So I don't know, would he go back to Switzerland? Would he go back to playing in Canadian Hockey League, or will he stick with the club? Hextall's not big on having guys stick first year. Even Provorov did not stick his first year. But I think there's a chance. I think he would get all of preseason to sort of prove himself. But Hextall, as you know, is not big on giving those first 9 games before a contract starts. He figures you either make it or you don't. So I would say he gets the preseason.
Right now with Patrick with the injury, where is he at right now in that recovery
he's fine.
process?
No, he's fine. I mean, he took part in the combine. There's no problem that way. It's just a matter of when a prospect misses some games, 2 years ago. Nobody was talking about injuries 2 years ago, and he played 92 games, including playoffs, and played in the Memorial Cup, totally dominated. He still dominated when he came back this year. So it's not really a worry. It's just a matter of some organizations want guys to play a certain amount of games before they get to the pros. You see it in other sports, too. That's really all it is.
Russ Cohen with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Sirius XM analyst for NHL Network Radio. The Philadelphia Flyers, they had that year 2 years ago where they made the playoffs, surprised a lot of people. Last year they win 10 games and then had a disappointing rest of their season. Do you believe the Flyers are moving in the right direction, Russ?
Totally, but I think what happened by having them make the playoffs, which was sort of like a prayer, right? I mean, everything broke right. They got hot at the end. There were teams that were playing poorly at the end. Last year was more representative of sort of where the team is. They have a lot of prospects. They're going to move more prospects in. No more Steve Mason. So I think you will see a change. I don't know if they're a playoff team. I don't. But I don't think Ron Hextall expects the team to make the playoffs. I think just the fans and the media do, and I don't think he cares. He's on course. He's getting the guys he wants. He jumped up and down on a couch when he got the second pick, his own couch. And so I think at the end of the day, it's working for him. Now, we do hear these crazy trade stories and scenarios. It's possible he can move down a few slots to gain some assets, but I don't know if he's going to gain that many. And at the end of the day, he needs a center, and these are the two best centers. After that, there is a drop-off. And he knows that, so I don't expect him to make a deal, but it is possible.
I happen to still believe in the coach and Dave Haxtell, and the tune with Dave Haxtell changed dramatically, done a 180 with this past season. I can understand why, because he's not a guy with this big personality, and then some of the decisions with Konechny and Gostisbehere did rub the fan the wrong way. But what do you say to the Flyers fan that has lost some patience with Dave Haxtell?
Well, they did bring in the former Erie Otters head coach to be an assistant. I think that's a sign that he will work with the young players, and if they don't develop quickly under Haxtell, they might develop faster under him. Nobody's talking about it right now. Nobody's saying that, but I think we're all thinking that. So I think there is a plan B, and I think it's in place, and now it's up to Dave Haxtell to make things happen.
What does he have to do this year to keep his job? Is his job in jeopardy this year?
I think it's a little bit in jeopardy. I think he has to get more production out of young guys. I think if they're going to bring up Scott Lawton needs to show progress. I think we need to see more progress in Travis Konechny. We need to see more progress in even Ivan Provorov, who had a great year. We're going to need to see progress and not steps back from the young guys for him to secure his job. I don't think making the playoffs secures his job. I think getting the young players to improve each season secures his job.
What type of Gostisbehere do you think we will see this upcoming year? He had the big first year, and then last year he did take a step back, even though he did just get that new contract.
Yeah, I think we'll see more of like a 40-point Shane Gostisbehere with 12 to 13 goals, something like that. A little better defensively. I think they're going to have to work on that because there's no way he's going to be able to have that many hiccups in his defensive zone and get all the ice time he thinks he's going to get. So I think those things will happen. I have full confidence that they will. But again, if he were to take another step back, that would be a knock against Dave Haxtell and his rigid defensive system.
Wrap it up with Russ Cohen, who joins us right now out in Chicago for the NHL Draft. Let's get into the Rangers. They have a part right now in their time of their franchise where they're still trying to win a Stanley Cup with an aging goaltender who still showed he's very capable of still having some success in the postseason. What do you expect out of this Rangers team this offseason?
I still think they'll be somewhere in they'll be in the playoff hunt. They'll make the playoffs. I don't know. It's going to depend a lot on their first-round matchup, how they do. Losing Oscar Lindberg is a loss. As a matter of fact, there was a great quote from his agent saying he loved to play for the Rangers. He loved to play in New York. He also liked a lot of ice time, and he wasn't getting that in New York. And that's a shot against Alain Vigneault. I mean, because Lindberg had a really good season and at times was just benched inexplicably. So I think they're going to have to find some younger players to really contribute. Fast is out for the first couple months. That's not going to help them. They're going to have to do something defensively. Clearly, no more Dan Girardi. So something opened up there. Everybody's expecting Shattenkirk. They're going to have to get him or somebody else.
How likely is that to happen, Shattenkirk?
I think 75%. He wants to go there. I think it's just a matter of numbers. They have the cap space.
And then what happens with Smith this year?
Well, that's a good question because, they protected Nick Holden, which really made no sense.
It was a surprise.
And so the fact that they did that, they sort of left Brendan Smith hanging out there until free agency hit. And so right now, the only team on earth he can negotiate with, if he wants to sign a contract, would be Las Vegas because they can still handle guys who are not UFAs yet. But beyond that, the Rangers have to wait. Now, I'm sure they have some sort of handshake agreement, but is that really going to hold up when all of a sudden July 1st hits and maybe some other teams are giving them more? And if the Rangers are going after Shattenkirk, can they afford Shattenkirk and Smith and still get an offensive player like they're looking for? That's where I think it's going to get a little dicey, and so that's where I think they're rolling the dice a little bit.
Is Stepan on this team when the season starts next year?
It's a good question. He's getting shopped. I'm sensing he is because of the salary. Derek Stepan can still play hockey, right? He didn't have a great playoffs. I mean, look, Kevin Hayes had 0 goals in the playoffs. We should be talking about that more, and the fact that they protected him and didn't protect Lindbergh. But Derek Stepan can still play. He can still do things for this team. His motor ran pretty dry in the playoffs. He's going to have to step it up. I think he has it in him. Another year off that contract could probably get him traded. I think right now the terms are too steep.
with your criticism of Hayes, and I agree with you, the night when they did end their season up against Ottawa, the question I asked Alain Vigneault was, how do you evaluate Stepan and Hayes' play in the postseason? He didn't want to do any evaluations that night. With Hayes, what does he need to do now in his career to take that next step forward?
Well, he needs to get smarter. He's too many offsides. He is a little too reckless with the puck at times. Now, sometimes he's great in open ice with it. I get it, and he's a big guy, and he'll be 6'5" all day. But in the faceoff dot, it's still iffy with him. He's not great in defensive zone draws, and that sort of hurts him. So I think just a little smarter game, a little better on faceoffs. If he works a lot on that, I think he could keep his job for another year. Otherwise, at some point, I think his job will be in jeopardy too.
We talk about Dave Haxtell. Let's hit on the Rangers coach, just since you alluded to it a little bit about his stubbornness and what he did in the postseason this past year, which just putting out the wrong defensive pairings time in and time out again. With Dave V, he's been to a Stanley Cup before. He's a successful coach in this league. He's been to 2 Stanley Cups. What does he need to do now in this continuing of his tenure with the Rangers to make those right adjustments for this upcoming year?
Put Brady Shea on the top pair with Ryan McDonough and leave him. Let's start with that.
You'll think he'll do that, right? Like, this is not going to be...
I would hope, but he didn't do it in the playoffs, and Shea had a great year. Like, why didn't he do it in the playoffs?
Man, it makes no sense.
Hope. Yeah. So it's a hope. It's a hope and a prayer, but that's starters. And then, I guess you have to make Zibanejad the number 1 center now, because with Stepan taking a little bit of a step back, you can't put him out as the number 1 center. At least Zibanejad was a lot better on draws. So I would hope that they're going to at least investigate that. And then beyond that, I think it's just a matter of trusting young players and letting them actually get ice time, and don't call up guys like Tanner Glass as much, because they're just short-term fixes.
I got 2 more before we let Russ Cohen go, who's kind enough to hop on board with us today. Let's get the Islanders into the conversation. Islanders and the Edmonton trade today, your reaction, and then also what do you anticipate the Islanders to do in the draft?
Great trade. I felt like they used up their remaining self-imposed cap, because I don't think they're allowed to go over a certain number there. And so I think they got value. Everly will do well. He's a top liner. That's great. They gave up way too much to protect their defensemen. They would have been better off losing Calvin DeHaan and not giving up a first in this draft and a second next year. That's too much. Grabowski's contract, sure, that made the Everly trade possible, but they didn't necessarily get that much better. They got a little bit better with Everly, but they still need more. And if they don't do more, they're going to be on the fringe of not making the playoffs. And that's where they're at. I mean, Garth had literally the last 2-3 months to make a trade for a defenseman, to trade one of his defensemen, get an asset, and trade it for an offensive player. He didn't do it. And so after that, when his back was against the wall, he had to give up more futures just to sort of maneuver all of this. And I felt like it was too much.
And then finally, just last night with the expansion draft, from a local or national perspective, just what were some of your biggest takeaways from what occurred last night?
Well, Derek Englund got hired because he's in Las Vegas. He lives there. He'll be like director of player relations next year. So that's why, with all the people questioning that's why they did that. After that, when we see Shea Theodore end up in Vegas, that's a good get. But they have too many 30-year-old defensemen from these deals. I don't think Vegas is going to be very successful this year. I think they'll be like a 35, 40-point team. I think they're going to trade most of everything and have a lot of assets. And moving forward, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, that's when they'll be good. But this year, it's going to be a little rough.
Is there a good media buffet on this boat that you're on right now, Russ?
No, this is foodless, but we'll have food after this. But right now I'm getting rained on. I'm really gutting it out for you, Zach. I hope you know that.
Hey, I appreciate it. Hey, you've done a better job and a better effort so far today on the show than the Mets have done all year, Russ.
Oh, there's no question about that. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Russ Cohen, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show.